It's Ash from Super Videos back for another video for Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead. This is going to be my review for the back-to-back mid-season finale of Fear the Walking Dead's third season, 307 and 308, which were called The Unveiling and Children of Wrath. So this review's a few days late, but I just thought that I needed to put it out there so that you guys know my opinions about it, because I actually did enjoy this episode. I had my problems with it. A few parts of the episodes irritated me, but overall I actually really enjoyed the episodes, and I think that in terms of quality, these two episodes were some of the rare episodes in Fear where I actually found myself enjoying the episode as much as I would the original Walking Dead. And in terms of quality, it was actually pretty well done. So let's get into the actual review. The episode starts with showing us Alicia and Jake. So Jake basically left in the last episode to go to Walker's group and try to make a deal with him. And in this episode, we pick up with Alicia basically following him. We did kind of see Alicia packing up and everything, so we knew that it was coming. Now, I actually liked that they didn't spend too much time showing us, them on the way. So it was great that they skipped all that and just showed us Alicia finding Jake. So that was good pacing there. So we basically have them walking towards the Native American community after they both agree that they need to go together. And then from there, we basically go back to the ranch. We see Madison, Rick, and Jeremiah, and they're talking about how Jake and Alicia left, and at this point, they don't know where they are. So they're basically talking about going after them. Now, I really liked the dynamic between Jeremiah and Nick in this moment, where Jeremiah says you need to step up, you need to, act like a man. And we saw that conversation resonate throughout the episode, obviously, but by the end of the second episode, we see the full circle thing, where Nick does what he thinks needs to be done, so he basically steps up. So I thought that was pretty great. Then we have the conversation between Jake, Alicia, and Walker. We basically get to know a little bit more about the conflict that exists between Jeremiah's group and the ranch and the Native American group, and the rivalry between them and the struggle to take over the land. So that was pretty great, and I really liked that they didn't brush over why this is a big deal. They kind of went back and explored why this is such a big deal for Walker, even though it's the apocalypse, because it made it more realistic. They fleshed out the story. It didn't feel like Walker in this apocalypse just wanted the land. There's a lot of land left that he could take over, that he could go to. But, this backstory explored why Walker wanted the land and why this mission was so important for him. So I really liked the way they fleshed that story out. So then, going from there, we get the reveal that Ophelia is there. Ophelia is with Walker and his group. We kind of speculated that anyway, and it was in the promo anyway, but I think the way they did it was pretty cool, because even though we knew it was coming, I was a bit surprised at that moment, because I thought that they would reintroduce Ophelia in a different way. So I was definitely surprised that they brought her in that manner, and I actually thought it was pretty cool. And then we have this moment between Alicia and Ophelia. They talk about the last time they saw each other and why Ophelia left. I wanted that to be flushed out a little bit more. It felt a little rushed. It felt like the conversation wasn't natural. I wanted to get a bit more. I know they didn't want to spend too much time talking about what happened, but a little bit more would have been great, although they did come back to it through flashback later on. But I wanted to see a little bit more about that specific discussion between Alicia and Ophelia about, why Ophelia left. So a little bit more would have been great there. So then going from there, we have Walker and Jake making this deal, this parlay, as they say, about, what they need to do. So basically, they agree on something, which was unexpected. I didn't think that they would actually make any deal. Obviously, the deal didn't really work out, as we saw. But, I wasn't expecting Walker to actually back down and make a deal, even though we don't know if he actually meant to make a deal or if he had other things in mind. We have the whole scenario where Ophelia goes back to the ranch with Jake as a prisoner, and then Alicia stays with Walker's group as a prisoner as well. I thought that whole scenario was pretty interesting, given that Ophelia has connections to both groups. So that was pretty cool there. And then, Alicia stays and they have this conversation and we get the reveal about the helicopter. Now, I actually really like the way they did that because I felt like I could feel every grain of hate from Alicia towards Walker at that moment. I think that was pretty well done. Great performance by the actress playing Alicia and everything. I thought that was pretty well done. Now, one thing, I know this is not a big deal, but if you look inside the helicopter, there's no blood. And if you remember, Travis was shot from under. So there should have been lots and lots of blood. And in the apocalypse, they can't clean all that blood. So it felt a bit weird not seeing any blood there. I know it's not a big deal, like I said, but it would have been better just to have a little bit of blood. There wasn't any blood on the actual seat. So a little bit of a nitpick there. So then once Jake and Ophelia come back to the ranch, we have Jeremiah saying that he doesn't want to make a deal, he doesn't want to negotiate and everything, which goes back to how stubborn he really is and how much he doesn't really care about peace and trying to keep his group safe, but rather he cares more about his ego. That conversation summed it all up about Jeremiah's true intentions, so that was pretty cool to see as well. And then comes the first bit where I actually found myself really irritated with Madison. So we have Madison asking Troy to go to the Native American group and rescue Alicia. Now, even though I understand, Madison wants to get Alicia back and she doesn't trust Walker and she doesn't see any sort of movement from Jeremiah's side in terms of moving towards the parlay that they have. So I understand all of that, but the decision Madison made at that moment was pretty dumb. I do understand why it was done, but I was really, really irritated with her decision at that point. So it's not really anything against the storytelling because it felt somewhat natural, somewhat in character for Madison to do it, but it definitely did irritate me. And then, from there we get to the first mission where Troy and his group with Nick and Madison attack the community and try to get Alicia back. And, we have that moment where Nick has a close call and all, and Troy saves him, so that was pretty cool to see. Although, this thing is getting a little old with Troy saving people, because we had Troy saving Madison early on in the season, and then now we have Troy saving Nick. From there, we obviously have chaos, everyone's shooting, and everything's just getting out of hand, which goes back to why I think that was a dumb decision to begin with. I don't understand why they thought that they could just go in and come out without any conflict, without any gunfight or anything like that. They're not commandos or anything, so they're not gonna be a good team in terms of going in and coming out without any noise, without anyone noticing. Once Alicia's actually safe, they come back, they have this little argument. I think that was an interesting argument, not because of, them fighting with each other, but about understanding everyone's thoughts and where everyone's coming from. And also egos going head to head. So that was pretty cool there. And then there's this little part with a discussion between Madison and Ophelia. Ophelia says, "I'm sorry about Travis." Now, it might just be me, but did anyone tell her? Because when Alicia and Walker were discussing the helicopter thing, Ophelia wasn't there. She was back at the ranch. So I don't know why she had that knowledge. Now that leads to a theory that Ophelia knew because she saw Travis fall down and she was perhaps responsible. And this goes back to one of the videos I did previously talking about this. But it's going to be very interesting to see whether that's actually something that they're going to reveal later on and what they do with that storyline, because I don't remember Alicia or Madison telling Ophelia about the helicopter. Now it might have happened off screen, but I just think it was a little weird. And then going from there, we have Jake getting the supplies and Ophelia back to the Native Americans. Now, I don't know what was going through Jake's mind when he did this. Why he thought that Walker and his group would not retaliate, would not do anything. So a little bad decision on Jake's part. But going from there, we have the part where Walker almost scalps Jake's head. So that was very intense. I actually thought that they're going to go through with it and kill Jake in that scene. So You know, it was definitely intense. It was definitely cool to see. Obviously, Ophelia steps up and stops Walker. Now, I was a bit surprised about how close Walker and Ophelia were. And obviously, through the flashbacks that we saw, we understood kind of why that was. But, you know, I wanted to explore a bit more of that before that scene because it felt like there was no reason for Walker to listen to Ophelia. It was pretty cool seeing, you know, that whole scene. It was intense and everything. So then going from there, I don't know what happened, but it went to commercial break. We came back, and then all of a sudden we have Ophelia being beaten and brought back. So we never saw what happened to her. We never saw whether Jake came back or anything. Now I know they did this to keep the fact that Ophelia had a plan a secret, but I really think that they could have done a better job with the editing and the jump because it felt very odd. It was a pretty bad jump, to be honest. They could have definitely made it work without actually showing the mission, without showing Ophelia being beaten or anything. They could have showed Jake come back. They could have done something like that. But, you know, they should have had something in there. There was just this jump and, you know, Jake was back all of a sudden and, you know, Ophelia was being dropped at the ranch. So definitely a problem with the jump editing there. Then, you know, we have the discussion between Troy and Nick. They're talking about, you know, their kamikaze plan and what happens if everything goes bad and, you know, the plan they have for that situation. So then going from there, we have the soldiers being poisoned and everything. But I actually liked the way they kept it a mystery and everything. So that was cool. And then again, from there, we have the second battle between them. Although this battle was more or less just walkers. And then that's basically the end of the first episode. And then once the second episode comes, we basically pick up with Ophelia. Now, one problem I have with this, because it felt like there was this break, and through that break, all the momentum they were building once the battle hit, once the walkers attacked, was destroyed by jumping back to Ophelia and a flashback like that. Now, I know it was the start of the second episode, but since they knew that they were going to put these episodes back to back, they could have done a better job at picking where to put these scenes and these flashbacks so that they don't destroy the momentum they're building. So definitely a problem with that because it felt like they were building all of that, there was all of that build up, and then it was crushed by Ophelia's flashback. So I definitely had a big problem with that. We basically explore what happened to Ophelia. She's by herself and everything. Jeremiah comes upon her first, which I did know and I talked about before, but we basically find out a little bit more about Jeremiah and that he's a racist and everything. Although I was kind of speculating that, but it did kind of feel out of nowhere because they didn't really talk about it that much. They could have addressed it when they had scenes between Luciana and Jeremiah, because Luciana was a non-white person. So, you know, we could have seen a little bit of that racism come out early on so that it doesn't feel out of nowhere. But that's a little bit of a nitpick there. And then once Jeremiah leaves and everything, we have Walker finding Ophelia and taking her back, helping her out and saving her. Now, although I did like this flashback, both with the Jeremiah part and the part with Walker and the Native Americans, I think it was dragged on a little bit too much. It could have been shortened. It was a little too long, especially with Ophelia walking around. But, you know, it was a good flashback. So then going from there, we jump back to the battle. And we have Ophelia just about to bounce. She's about to leave. I don't know what her intentions are. It felt a little weird, but, you know, we have Madison stopping her and whooping her ass, basically. So that was very cool to see, very interesting. And then from there, we get the reveal that Ophelia put something in the coffees, and that's why the soldiers were sick, and that's what got Nick sick as well. And Madison is basically very mad because Ophelia could potentially kill Nick. So that was very cool. It was good conflict there, in my opinion, between Madison and Ophelia and the dynamic between them. Now, I think if it is revealed later on again that Ophelia had something to do with Travis's death as well, I think that would be very interesting, given Madison now knows that Ophelia almost killed Nick, and she actually did help kill Travis. So it's going to be interesting to see how Madison reacts in that scenario. And then we basically jump back to Strand a little bit. He finds his boat, Abigail. He ends up talking on the radio with this Russian dude, and they're just talking and everything, and he ends up burning Abigail down. Now, I don't understand the purpose behind having Strand in this episode. They could have left him out of the episode. There was no reason why we needed to see Strand in this episode. There was a lot going on. We didn't need Strand. And him burning the Abigail down was a dumb decision in terms of storytelling. So, yeah, I just don't understand that whole storyline there. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens after with Strand and how he connects back to the story. And then going from there, we have another dumb decision by the group, not just Madison, but by the group. They basically go to the ranch, they steal the artifacts that the Native Americans have, and they bring it back. They steal it and they bring it back. Now, I know this was a plan to get Walker to come to some sort of agreement with them and to negotiate with them somehow, but it was very risky. They weren't that desperate. They could have waited a little bit. So it was definitely a little risky and a little out there for them to do that. Then we get to the big reveal in this episode. Nick digs into the floor and finds the skull. And he finds out that it's actually Walker's father's skull, his head. And, he finds that Jeremiah murdered him. And, through that story that Jeremiah tells, we find that Jeremiah is not the good guy, not even close. And then going from there, we have Nick telling everyone the secret. So now, everything is just out there. Everything is on the table. But I definitely enjoyed the way they set that up and what they did with that. So that was pretty cool. And then we basically get to the ending of the story, where Madison tells this story about herself. I'm not sure if she's telling the story of when she was younger. It just went over my head. But then after that, she makes this plan. She goes to Jeremiah, gives him the option. You have to kill yourself or I'm going to kill you. And Jeremiah obviously doesn't agree. But I definitely liked the way they set that up. It was definitely intense and I really liked that. And going back to Jeremiah, again, he's very stubborn and that's why he didn't agree. He could have saved a lot of lives by doing it, but he didn't do it. But then obviously we have Nick stepping up and killing him. And, this goes back to what I was saying before about him stepping up. So I think that was a great way to circle back to that moment at the beginning of the episode. And with Nick killing Jeremiah and everything, I think he is again becoming my favorite character right now. So that's pretty cool. And then going from there, we have Madison returning the head to Walker. I think that was a very cool moment. Artistically, I think it was very well done. And I really liked how there was minimal dialogue there. It was just about eye contact. It was just about what emotions they were feeling. I could definitely get that out of the acting itself. So that was cool there. And I think if they did some dialogue, it would take away from the acting and the performance and, us seeing the emotion. So that was pretty cool. And then that's basically the end of the episode. Now it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Troy and Jake moving on. I'm sure that Madison told them that Jeremiah committed suicide and everything and didn't actually say what happened. But it's going to be very interesting to see who is in charge of the ranch now. Whether Walker comes back and takes over the land, what happens with Madison and the group, and how we move forward with the story. So again, these two episodes were definitely good quality. It was definitely entertaining. Some problems here and there, but overall, I think it was a great episode. In terms of rating, I would give these two episodes a low grade rating. A few things could have been improved, but overall, both episodes were very strong. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.